Bandai has pulled out all the stops for BT21 by already revealing one of the secret rares of this set with Tai Kamiya, not to mention the newest Metal Greymon. And before I even finished writing this script, that Starter Deck 20 Agumon. Tai Kamiya returns as yet another white tamer, the first being Tai Kamiya and Matt Ishida from BT5. This tamer has a play cost of 4, and is a memory fixture that has a Your Turn effect, where when one of your Digimon attacks, by suspending this tamer, you draw 1. Additionally, its main once per turn effect allows you to play one adventure or hero trait card with a play cost of 2 or less from your hand without paying the cost. Then for each of your tamer's colors, you add 1 to the maximum play cost. Afterwards, you return this tamer to the bottom of the deck. My mind had several ideas, but here's the overall speculation I have. First, Bandai is going to introduce a new type of card that plays adventure or hero trait cards, meaning for the most part we're seeing similar designs from BT20, in which formerly you had X antibody cards that functioned well with each other, but have been soft rebooted into Chronicle support. Likewise, the SOC and Abaddon Electronics cards have also been merged to a certain degree by just the keyword and trait, Seekers. Which means with the newest starter decks, you can expect a deck full of adventure cards to support each other, and likewise hero cards as well. Tai is interesting in that you'll likely be able to take advantage of playing Digimon for reduced costs and triggering their effects. And if you have all the colors in play, red, blue, yellow, green, black, and purple, you'll be able to play a Digimon with a play cost of 9 or less. Meaning that new Metal Greymon is a valid option, considering you could play it, de-Digivolve 1 for every 2 of your tamer's colors, then if you have another Digimon with the adventure trait that can attack, you give it Alliance, and then it's off to the races you go. And while we're just gleaning these new cards as of Saturday the 8th of February, when I write this, especially in case they release more cards before the release of the video, I can't help but feel that the design team for Bandai is trying to do too much and trying to be fresh. Fundamentally speaking, when you compare the hero trait cards to, say, BT12, there are some parallels in terms of design because of the fact that you have all the mainstay heroes appearing on the cover pack. Granted, you now also see the additions of Ghost Game and Atmon as well. In some ways, BT12 maintained the fundamentals of each Digimon's Digivolution line, making sure you had support for the individual decks and were cohesive in nature. This is also why for me, BT12 was one of my favorite sets because it still jived with old support cards and didn't force you into new ones. This is where to some degree I feel like BT18 didn't perform as well because when you looked at the cards all together, the designer's intent was for the players to create 3 or 4 color hybrid decks for emperorgreymon and magnagarurumon. And even with decks like Lord Knightmon Ace and Dynasmon Ace, these decks didn't perform either. And don't get me started on Royal Base. To that end, it felt that while BT18 was a really cool set for fans of Digimon Frontier, there were maybe literally a handful of cards that saw consistent play. The rest were just kind of there. But it could also be that because this set was released in combination with BT19, we saw a lot of cards that would be used to counter the BT18 format. Likewise, the order of release of Medieval Gallantmon is definitely going to put a damper on players who want to try out the new Crossheart or Blue Flare support cards. The point is, BT18 offered so much with trying to bring together numerous archetypes. You had a Takuya and Koji Tamer that could have worked in conjunction with Tomihime and Zoe Orimoto, or JP Shibayama and Koichi Kimura. You had new line cards that were even super rares, and you had triple color option cards for emperorgreymon and magnagarurumon. But when push came to shove, I don't think I saw this deck ever be played in a competitive setting. In fact, it was always still BT17 with the ancientgreymon or ancientgarurumon plays. And with that hilarious ruling on Takuya and Koji, there really wasn't a need to play emperorgreymon or magnagarurumon. The consistency behind running all the different spirits in one deck just wasn't there. And while BT20 hasn't even been released yet in North America, Japan is already getting a taste of the newest set with all the newer support cards, whether it be Chronicle, Excel, or Seekers. For older styles, of course, you're going to be able to use the new cards, but for newer decks, integrating older cards is much harder. When I mention integrating older cards, I'm talking more of the Chronicle integrating the older X antibody cards because they don't have Chronicle in their trait. Instead, if you lean more into staying with the mainline existing X antibody cards, for example, it's much easier to integrate the newer cards. Saying this already makes me feel like adventure support and hero support cards are going to be either a hit or a miss. My primary complaint with the previous mentioned archetypes of Chronicle, Excel, and Seekers is that if you were to build a deck with just these cards, The underlying problem is that there just aren't enough level 3s to make it actually work. It runs into the same issues as Royal Base does, because there's no third level 3 to give you that clean transition from level 3 to level 4, without worrying on missing your drops. And what are you going to do? Splash Ukomons? It's because of these initial concerns that while true, the new Metal Greymon can digivolve from a level 4 Digimon with Greymon in its name, it also does say Adventure Trait for a cost of 3. Meaning across 7 other Digidestined, you could be seeing Garurumon, Birdramon, Kabuterimon, Ikakumon, Togemon, Angemon, or even Gatomon, with the Adventure Trait digivolving into this Digimon. Unfortunately, the Your Turn effect is going to be a little trickier if you're playing a Greymon deck, as you'll need to run more Adventure Trait members, such as Adventure Trait Agumon, Greymon, another Metal Greymon, or War Greymon for it to work. But now imagining a hero deck that takes advantage of all the other Tamers and their Digimon, I will be interested to see if that succeeds. Because ultimately it feels like it'll be different colors with little to no ways to search, unless one specific Tamer and Digimon have the draw power. But in doing so, this also means that the specific archetype that's gifted that draw power is also going to potentially overcompensate its existing line. And if I were to make a prediction, blue is normally the one that's all about drawing cards, and do you really want more consistency to hit decks like Magnamon X or emperorgreymon? I've been seeing some comments in regards to decks like Crossheart and Blue Flare as well, because ultimately, when you have specific trait cards that need to interact with each other to trigger specific when digivolving or when attacking effects, this pigeonholes the entire strategy and can make it a high resource use with a low output payout. While this topic is a little shorter than most of my essay-style videos, the Digimon card game is constantly digivolving and trying to add new and exciting mechanics to the game. But in doing so with their more recent sets, it feels like locking certain Digimon behind newer archetypes prevents them from being easily utilized in their older variant decks. Not to mention consistency leaning towards one color or the other, but never both. But what are your thoughts on the newly revealed cards of BT21 and Starter Decks 20 and 21? Do you think new traits are the direction for the game, or do you miss the days when an Agumon, Greymon, or archetype-specific card already had access to both of its colors? Let me know your thoughts, because this week's got at least one more video to chat about before next week. This is DIGI-PANDA, logging out.